Oh, there we go.
Probably should have started there.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order Canton Township Board of Trustees study session on December 17th, 2024. Can we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we had our last board meeting of the year, but this is going to be our last study session of the year. So can I have a motion to please have Treasurer Slavin sit in for Clerk Segrist?
I move that Treasurer Slavens be appointed as temporary clerk.
Support.
Motion made by Trustee Borninski, supported by Trustee Foster. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Treasurer Slavens, please take roll call.
Absolutely. Borninski,
Good evening.
Ganguly,
Good evening.
Foster,
Good evening.
Graham Hudek,
Good evening.
Slavens, good evening. Ansari is not here, and Seacrest is not here.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Motion made by Treasurer Slavens, supported by Trustee Ganguly. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. So on to the study session. So today our study session is the Police Department 5-year strategic plan, and we will have it kicked off with Chief Chad Brow.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the trustees taking some time out on Tuesday night to be here. And thank you for, we have a director in the room. Thank you. And Rohit, one of our citizens, is in the back. And Emma, thank you for being here. One of the most important things I think I'd like to lead with is the fact that this is a strategic plan that's driven by our people. Every level of the organization has contributed significantly to this 5-year strategic plan, including ordinance, our clerical, our officers union, our command union, and the different roles that they play for us, and our merit employees. So the police department's unique in that way that it has every union represented within the police department and merit employees. So what's nice about the strategic plan also, the chief didn't spend extraordinary amount of time. This was driven by the people, every level of this organization and external stakeholders led this plan, and it leads us into the next 5 years. The one thing I'd like to state that this room, elected officials, and this plan is really driven by 4- and 5-year cycles. As a police chief, you know, we run a constitutional police department. We're focused on the Bill of Rights. We're focused on the service level to the community. My thoughts are on the next second and all the way up to the next 25 years. So this 5-year strategic plan plays a critical role in how we will operate day to day, month to month, year to year over the next 5 years from 2025 to 2029. So I'd like to thank everybody here for their work. We had contributions from every employee had an opportunity to speak on this over, I think, a 3-month period. So this was led by Captain Biley. He's to my right. He's been with us for over 20 years. I'll have each one of these folks introduce himself and explain their role in the organization at some point here in the near term. But you won't find a better administrator than Captain Biley. He's grown with us for 20 years and really well done, so one hell of a job. All right. There's 10 points I'd like to mention real quick before we jump into this. I had to write them down, but so I'm going to refer to them a little bit as I start off today's conversation. The dedication, the expertise, there's so many years of service sitting around this table that led to this, starting with Barb and myself have been here between us over 60 years. So, sorry, Barb.
All good.
But that means a lot when you're providing perspective. And some of these folks are going to be here a long time and passing on that torch so they can develop the future of our organization is real critical. The plan is flexible. I think it's important to realize you can get into a plan and you can have some financial highs and financial lows. There's needs, there's wants, there's special agendas throughout a police department and a municipality. So we're aware of that, and the plan The strategic plan is aware of that, so you'll see that as you follow along tonight. The service level expectations, we prioritize what we do based on the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and our citizens. So what you've allowed us to do as a board, what you've approved us to do through your financial support and all the other support that you offer us has set us out as a police department that there's probably, as I tell everyone, you've probably heard me say this multiple times, we're not perfect, but we're the best. And I believe it, and I've seen it. I've been here to the Mexican border, and I've never seen a better municipal police department. So with that, it's budget aware, as I say. We're aware of the budget. We're very progressive in our approach over the next 5 years. Some other notes that I've taken, there's a lot of collaboration with stakeholders. That goes back to our history when this organization really took off in 1985 and over the years until the last meeting that the deputy supervisor just conducted. We had a meeting about juvenile justice, and that reached back to 1993, and we're carrying on some of those traditions today. This 5-year strategic plan supports that. We have a vision for the future. We assign accountability and responsibility to different parts of this plan. And we'll talk about the 50 years of service of our police department. Barb will hit on that and sustaining that level of excellence for our organization. And we do have a commitment to accountability. We're coming out of criminal justice reform, a lot of reform over the last 4 or 5 years, and we've led the pack on that already, and we'll still be focused on some of those accountability measures, whether it's from accreditation or just the internal structures that we have in the police department. But at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Captain Biley, and we'll start the strategic plan. I'd ask that, of course, this is your room. We work for you. If you have any questions, you can ask. We like to hold the questions to the end if possible, but if there's something that you think it shouldn't wait, please bring it up. So, thank you.
Thanks, sir. Welcome, everybody. And Chief, thank you for the kind words. Very nice. It is absolutely my honor and my privilege to present to you the 2025-2029 strategic plan. We'll go over a couple different components of what this plan entails to give you a good snapshot of what it is. The full document will be available online shortly after this meeting, probably tomorrow. What you're going to hear about is 3 different parts. There's goals, objectives, and strategies. The goal is our North Star. It's where we want to go as an organization over that time period and maybe even beyond. The objective is our roadmap of how we're going to get there, and then the strategy is what we're going to do. That's that accountability piece that we worked very hard as a committee to make sure that we held ourselves to. It's a little bit more drilled down of exactly what it is that we're going to do. So you'll see those 3 things, a common theme that'll come up over and over again.
Next year.
Yep. Yeah. There we go. It's going to do it. There we go. So table of contents, just to give you a snapshot of what we're going to go over. Chief Ball will give you an opening statement. We'll go over the strategic planning team. I'll introduce everybody to you that we know who it is that works so hard to present this. I'll talk about the organizational overview. So we'll talk about the history of the Canton Police Department, and we have a very big monumental event happening next year. We'll cover a little bit. We'll talk about the planning process overview. I'll go over the assumptions that we use to create this plan, which is our baseline for how we move forward. I'll go over the internal stakeholder results. I'll go over the external community stakeholder results. I'll talk about those goals and objectives that I mentioned a moment ago. And then finally, we'll close with, which is a commitment to progress. As I talk about accountability and transparency, it's not enough just to put a plan together. We have to make sure that we're checking in with ourselves, being honest with ourselves, whether we're having successes and failures. And sometimes the best laid out plans are on a winding, turning road. And so that commitment to progress is that last piece, which I would consider to be one of the most important. There we go. Introducing Chief Paul.
Again,
Should be smiling.
I think this one did it.
I did it.
There you go. Yeah. I just want to, again, introduce everyone in here. I want to have them introduce themselves, explain a little bit of their background, and what role they perform for our citizens and the board as we perform this service for the police department. Again, I'm Chad Ball, for the public that may not know me. I believe the board knows me pretty well. I'm starting my 29th year in February, and I've been fortunate enough to hold a number of positions within the organization, and been given about every opportunity there is that you can have when it comes to municipal law enforcement for a community of our size, because of this board and the citizens that's supporting our organization. So I'll pass it over to Captain Byron.
So our starting early this year, we set forth with the strategic plan, and so we wanted to make sure we put together a broad spectrum of people within our organization, and we want to try and be as inclusive as we can. Our goal in the beginning was to truly be able to at least create an environment where everybody had some type of a voice, whether they chose to give it or not is a personal choice up to them, but I wanted to make sure I created an environment. So we had a series of different meetings over quite a bit of time. So to my left is obviously Chief Baugh, Barb Caruso.
Sorry, I'm still trying to make this.
Lauren Lala.
Hello, I've been here for a little over 5 years now. I'm the Support Services Secretary for Captain Biley.
Jason Singleton.
I'm been here for close to 20 years now. I'm our union board, patrol union board representative, as well as FTO and instructor at the department.
Sergeant Cody Barnes.
Hello, I've been here 10 years now. I'm a day shift patrol sergeant. On top of that, I'm also a use of force reviewer. I'm a supervisor on our search warrant team, as well as our recruiting unit and our peer support team.
Last but not least, Lieutenant Adam Schulman.
Good evening. Been here 17 and a half years, currently lieutenant on one of our day shifts, actually the shift working today. I've been in charge of our accident investigation team, peer support team, community engagement team, and our drone team. And I'm also the union representation from the command union.
All right, and you know me, I am Captain Biley. I am your support services captain. I am in charge of special services, which is anything from training and records, and the investigative bureau, which is anything to do with our investigative arm of the organization. I'll turn the floor over to Barb now, who's going to go over the organizational overview.
Boy, I didn't play a role in this. But I really cheered him on.
Sorry, I missed the introduction. I was fooling with this clicker. You guys know me, Barb Caruso. I've been here 35 years in January. Love all my time at the department. Can't get enough of it. So here we go. I'll also describe myself as the monopoly banker when I meet new people and they ask what I do. So correlation. You may have noticed a couple of pages dedicated to the 50th anniversary we're going to be celebrating in 2026. We are very excited about our history. I was volunteered, I guess, selected to talk about it just for a brief minute. In 1975, the Board of Trustees approved forming the Canton Police Department. And then a year later, 26 reserve officers began patrolling the community. They worked evenings and weekends only. I recently spoke to one of the original reserves who went on to be a 28-year employee retiree of a department. He said the reason for the limited hours was because they shared vehicles with the building department. So at 5 o'clock, they would come in and put on the magnetic patch and the red bubble on the top, and they would go out and go to work. The remainder of the time, police services continued to be supplemented by Wayne County Sheriffs and Michigan State Police. And then in 1978, the Township Board approved transitioning out of the reserve model into hiring 20 full-time officers who patrolled for 28,000 residents at that time. And not to scare everyone, but fast forward right to this year. We are currently budgeted for 100. I think we have an org chart up here, yes. Do you guys have booklets? Did we bring our booklets?
No, I think we just have the online.
Yeah. We were going to bring you booklets. We'll get those to you. On the org chart, you'll see the officers are in the dark blue, and they were spread across, like Captain Riley said, Patrol Division, Support Services, which is investigations, and other various special units that we have. And then they are supported by 42 civilian employees, which are in gray, and they consist of dispatch supervisors, the police clinician, and then various merit, clerical, and our ordinance officers. We are all very excited to begin planning for our 50th anniversary, and we will keep you in the loop and included in everything we come up with.
And real quick, if you don't notice, to the bottom corner is our original police building. And yourself, ma'am, and Deputy Supervisor Joe Hauber got us some money for the township to rehab that building and repurpose that building for different uses, including, I believe, growth works. So that's the original building of our police department. I think that's important to note because that money is going to be really helpful in how we engage our citizens. We're designed, you'll see that org chart, we're designed very lean, and that's why you see a lot of support services with the non-sworn personnel. And keep in mind, we have an SAD for policing, as you know very well, and we have a 911 budget that supports the dispatch center, dispatches for both police and fire. We have ordinance too, by the way, that's under our command since probably about 15 years ago, 17 years ago. So, thank you.
Thank you for the overview, Barb. So moving on to assumptions, I spoke about this a little bit earlier. So assumptions are the baseline that we used to start our planning for the 5-year strategic plan. And I'll go through the 3 primary assumptions that we have. Again, these are forecasts that are the basis for the plan. So assumption number 1 is going to be, these are related to factors impacting police workload. Our service population will increase, and this will result in an increase in the number of calls for service. Increases in organized retail theft, cybercrime, homeland security, et cetera, will increase the need for employees who are technological experts. The opioid and fentanyl epidemic will continue to be a component of the crime rate. Increasing in property theft and crime will increase the need for new programs and services centered around substance use disorders. Assumption 2, these are demographic factors that are impacting the police workload. The demographics of the township will continue to change due to the economic shifts, creating additional demands and expectations for the police department. This in turn will increase department staffing and requirements. Assumption 2, residential and mixed-use development will continue to increase in Canton Township. Main thoroughfares such as Ford Road and Michigan Avenue will continue to develop, resulting in an increase of technology and driven workspaces. And finally, continual growth in Canton will create an even greater diversity amongst our service population. Assumption 3, these are related to department changes and capital improvement needs. Assumption 1 is Canton Township will continue to grow and evolve, which will result in dynamic police force requiring additions in personnel, technology, and infrastructure. Equipment will need to be replaced and promote enhanced officer safety. Therefore, a well-devised equipment replacement strategy will be needed to be implemented. 3, the new use of technology will be developed and utilized to expand the capacity of police operations. Therefore, the need for adequate storage of digital systems will be paramount. And last, increases in staffing will place a strain on existing resources, resulting in the need for capital improvements. Moving on to the planning process is Lauren Lala.
So the goal of our planning process was to gather honest and candid feedback from both internal and external stakeholders. So we conducted SWOT analysis with all of our shifts and our special units, including our officers, our dispatchers, our clerical ordinance officers, and our command staff. We also sent out an anonymous survey in case someone was too scared to say something in person or just wanted to give a more in-depth conversation. We then met with community members, including residents, board members, school officials, and faith house leaders to discuss the strengths, concerns, and expectations of the department. Once all the feedback was gathered, we all went through every single response that came in, whether it was on the anonymous survey, if it was the in-person SWAT meetings, or the in-person external stakeholder meetings. We started to fit all of the responses into buckets. Some responses fit into more than one bucket. We found often that something was both a strength and a weakness. And then we started to take all of our buckets to develop our goals for the next 5 years. It really helped having people from all levels of the department to hold each other accountable so that our goals are reach over not just one unit in the department or one group of people in the community, but widespread over the township.
Actually, one of the things with external stakeholders, we had a pretty long couple-hour meeting with all of our external stakeholders, and we did the same process for that. We took all their feedback in and then put it into different buckets. And again, really, it's just trying, we talk about being transparent, we try and talk about creating spaces to try and hear everything that that they want to say. The anonymous survey was, that was something, I debated heavily about that, because you never know, careful what kind of questions you ask. But we were open to the feedback, and we learned a lot of good things, and I'm hoping that by doing that, somebody that maybe wouldn't want to talk in a public space felt more comfortable, and I think we did. We got some pretty long responses out of those, a couple paragraphs, and some of them were just yeses and nos, but no matter what the feedback was, we took it all in, so I was very impressed with that. Thank you, Lauren. So moving on to the internal stakeholder results. So we, over about a month to 2 month period, we made sure we met with, as we said, every layer of the organization. And so we went to all our different roll calls. We went to all the different unit meetings, to the Detective Bureau, Ordnance, the Records Bureau, and made sure that we created, again, as much space as we could combined with that anonymous survey. So going over the internal feedback, strengths and weaknesses, this is anything that was in the survey and that was told to us through the meetings. So some of our strengths, and I do think it echoed as training. Our standards, our reputation, and our community engagement are things that truly, when you're looking at core pillars of our organization, those are things that Canton just does very, very well. And I'm proud because, again, that is the feedback that came from our employees, and it aligns with the same thing that I feel, and also aligns with our goals in the organization and things that we work towards. So I was very happy to see that. When we look at weaknesses, one of the things that I encouraged as we sat in these roll calls and these meetings, and I mean it when I told them that, is that anytime you're truly trying to get better, your weaknesses should be about twice of what your strengths are. If we're taking a hard, critical look at ourselves and we're being honest with each other. And I had to get my shovel out a couple times and dig a little bit, but ultimately we got some really good feedback, and I'm proud of the feedback that we got because it sets the path forward for us to make sure that we're continually developing ourselves. Staffing was our overall number one weakness. That was the most frustration from the internal stakeholders. They had talked about some facilities and some technology. They talked about communication. They talked about leadership, some of the things that they demanded from our leadership team, and that was something that was criticism that I was happy to accept because, again, it gives me a path forward to what I can do to make ourselves better. Administrative tasks, they talked about some politics. They talked about stagnation in the organization, that they wanted some movement, and they talked about our reputation, of their concern of making sure that Canton's always viewed in the best light that it possibly can. Moving on to opportunities. Opportunities are typically going to be external. So strengths and weaknesses are almost always going to be the strengths internally in your organization, the weaknesses internally. Opportunities and threats are external. So for an opportunity, that's something that's typically going to be beyond my control. And so one of the things I talked about was technology, that somebody somewhere smarter than me is putting something together that I have no control over, yet it's going to have a large impact on our organization. And so what we asked for them to kind of do is forecast those things and try and brainstorm that we can take advantage of some of those. So technology had come up, health and wellness came up, social media was a big topic, and that'll be a common theme that you hear from internal and external, is they wanted more voice from the Canton Police Department over social media platforms. Staffing, training, and external resources is one of the things they looked at as opportunities. For external resources, that's truly building bridges with different partners in our community and the regional area, or maybe even the state and beyond, something that they found that was important. Threats is the same thing. Threats are always going to be viewed as something that's external from us. It's something that I don't necessarily have control over. One of the things that we talk about in the organization is if it's predictable, it's preventable. Those are kind of rules that we live by. So if we can sit in a room and we can say, somewhat like assumptions, I can predict this is going to happen, then I can try and put together a plan as best as possible to be able to either soften the blow or manage it. One of the things I talked a lot about with threats was COVID. Arguably one of the greatest impacts it's had to our organization, probably in my career, probably in the next person's career. Every generation has their thing, and COVID was ours. I had nothing to do with COVID, but yet I had everything to do with it when it was happening to our organization. So it's just that planning component. So we talked about changes in society. And society's expectations. What do they want from the police department? We covered that in an external stakeholder is tell me what you expect of me, tell me what you want. And that's important for us to know. Again, we're looking for that North Star to point which direction we want to go as an organization. Talked about external partners. Again, they talked about workforce, emergency management. They talked about the media, pros and cons of the media, and they talked about mental health. That's not just mental health within the organization. They talked about mental health in society overall. What can we do as an organization to be able to better prepare for some of the things that are happening? And so you'll see some of that as we move forward. This is a slide that I'm very proud of. This is what's called the word cloud. And I'll openly admit that I am not the creator of this. I stumbled upon this while I was looking at other plans, and I was just impressed with it. And when we talk about that leap of faith with the internal survey, sending it out, this was another leap of faith. So what a word cloud is you take all of the feedback that you get and you dump all of those sentences into a word cloud. And the word cloud reads everything and it tells you the repetition of a single word or a sentence. And the more that word is repeated, the larger and the different color it comes up on the word cloud. And I absolutely was proud when we were done that professionalism, reputation, and training were the three things that our internal stakeholders had said about our organization. And again, there's no way for me to really manipulate that. That's simply taken. You can see there's some sentences in there that are a little bit long. I didn't change them. There's some grammar errors in there, but it is what it is. I left it because that's what they had said. And so, again, this is available online. You can kind of look through some more of them. But if you're looking at who is the Canton Police Department and what are we trying to do as a township and as an organization for our citizens, it is. We are a highly trained, very professional, and we have a great reputation with our community. And that's echoed by our officers and our support staff from the organization. So I was very happy with this. Moving on to external community stakeholders. So we met with our external stakeholders. We had, first we had our in-person meeting, and then part of that in-person meeting, we had we gave a presentation on some of our different units within the organization. So just a quick overview, that way the external stakeholders knew who we are and what we focus on as an organization. We had our embedded clinician come in. I had talked about accreditation and the standards that come along with that. We had our we had Officer Bell, our social media community relations officer, come in and just talk about some of the different programs that we had. That was our time to talk, and then it was our time to listen. And so we presented the SWOT analysis to them, and we just listened to what the feedback of the people had to say. And it was a good, open discussion, again, fostering feedback. So some people are in this room here, Kate, Summer, and Rohit, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate the feedback that you guys have. When we present the goals, you'll see how those are all, you're baking a cake. A lot of ingredients go into it. But I think the final product was very, very nice. So taking a look at some of the feedback that we got, our strengths, professionalism, good visibility. We talked about proactive communication with the residents. We talked about our police clinician. We talked about mental health and wellness for our officers. We talked about training is above other departments. Our omnipresence, that's our visibility in the community. Training with schools came quite a bit. We have a strong partnership with our schools, and that is something over the next 5 years that we're looking to continue with. And the culture is different than other communities. That's something that we truly have to focus on as we begin to blend as a community and all of our different groups come together. We have to make that as successful as we possibly can, but we have to recognize that it's happening and make sure that we're, again, if it's predictable, it's preventable, make sure that we're prepared for it. Concerns, more interaction with kids, planned presidents. We talked about visibility, talked about staffing needs. We talked about more training, specifically with adults with special needs. We talked about proactive active shooter training at mosques for the public. We talked about government regulations. Response times, trying to keep it as low as we possibly can. We talked about recruitment and retention, and they had brought up the need for a reserve program. That's a multiplier for our department without having sworn officers. Looking at expectations, what I talked about before, one of the things I asked is not only you tell me what I'm doing good, but tell me what you expect. And that way, again, I know what I have to develop on my building blocks. It's nice to give everybody a pat on backs, and I do truly love to hear the success. But I also want to know, is there something out there that we're not filling right now that we can start working towards especially over the next 5 years. So I had asked for expectations, and this was probably the bulk of the conversation. We had some really good topics that came up. We talked about investing in new technology. We talked about communicating with the schools. We talked about better clinician services, possibly adding another one on. They talked about having an afternoon clinician, even a midnight shift clinician. All different things that they had talked about with expectations. Continuing the police to be firm and fair, opportunity to increase community policing officers, outreach to the older community, diversifying staffing, and then we talked about empathy, truly understanding somebody else. And to truly understand somebody else, you have to know where they're coming from, or you have to have the ability to be able to listen. And I talked about the beginning of this presentation was our time to talk, and then the second half was our time to listen. Again, expectations ties into empathy quite a bit. Tell me what your expectations are and how can I help you? And now we're going to go into the goals. So this is truly the core of our presentation here. And we're going to start off with Lieutenant Schulman.
So as Captain Biley has stated, there's been a lot of planning and time that has gone into this. So we took everybody's information, turn that on, took everybody's input and suggestions and put them into those buckets, and then we developed our goals from that. And as Captain Biley stated, we have the goals, and they're broken down to the objective, and then the strategies, which will tell us how to get there. So goal 1 was to maintain high service levels through adequate staffing. Then with the objective, the first one was to assess and identify staffing needs. Objective 2, enhance recruitment strategies. And objective 3 was to increase community engagement in recruitment. So going back to objective 1, our strategies to go through this roadmap is to conduct a comprehensive analysis of current staffing levels, both sworn and civilian, in relation to the community needs and the crime trends. Strategy 1.2 is to establish a staffing projection model based on anticipated population growth, workload, and service demand. 1.3 is to develop a report outlining specific staffing gaps and projecting future needs. For the second objective of enhancing recruitment strategies, the first strategy was to create partnerships with local colleges and universities to promote law enforcement careers and foster diversity. The second strategy is to implement recruitment campaigns utilizing social media, community events, and job fairs to attract potential candidates. And then for the third objective, our first strategy is to host community forums to discuss the role of law enforcement and the importance of diversifying our staffing, represent the community that we serve. And then the second strategy is to promote internship opportunities, public safety aid program for community members interested in pursuing a career in law enforcement. And then the third strategy was to engage with local organizations to promote career pathways in policing, focusing on community involvement and trust building. So then we moved on to our second goal, which was to promote officer development and well-being, with our first objective being to enhance professional development opportunities. The second objective was to promote mental health and wellness. And the third one is to implement, physical fitness and health programs. So for the first objective with the strategy, it was to implement and enhance the ongoing training programs for officers to build the skills in critical areas like crisis intervention, de-escalation, community policing, cultural awareness, and technology. Second strategy was to implement a mentorship program, pairing experienced officers with new recruits to help facilitate knowledge transfer. We have a lot of new officers right now, and we have a lot of retirees, and we want that institutional knowledge to stay with us so we can keep moving forward and not lose that. With the third strategy for the first objective, it was to develop a career path with opportunities for advancement, specialized training, and leadership development. For objective 2, with promoting the mental health and wellness, it was to create a digital mental health support program, including counseling services and stress management workshops. Second strategy, to increase peer support networks to provide informal mental health resources among our officers. And the third strategy for that would be to conduct regular wellness checks to assess officers' mental health and address concerns proactively. For the third objective of implementing the physical fitness and health programs, the first strategy is to assess our current physical fitness facilities, and make recommendations for functionality. And then the second strategy would be to offer nutrition and wellness workshops to promote healthy lifestyle choices among our officers. Now I will hand it on to Sergeant Barnes.
So our third goal was to increase physical resources. We have two objectives to achieve this. The first one is ensure sustainability, inclusivity, and environmental considerations. And our second objective is to enhance facility infrastructure. For our strategies, I believe we have 4 strategies for objective 1. The first strategy is to integrate sustainability practices into facility management and resource procurement. For example, energy efficient lighting, green spaces, and eco-friendly resources. Strategy 2, integrate empathetic design workspaces into our facilities. For example, lactation accommodating areas, trauma recovery room, and gender equal facilities. Third, explore alternative funding sources for sustainability initiatives such as federal or state grants for green technology that may be available. And then lastly, train our personnel on the importance of sustainability in operations and inclusive workspaces. Back to our second objective, which is enhance facility infrastructure. Our strategies are conduct a comprehensive assessment of existing facilities to identify maintenance needs and areas of expansion. Our second strategy is to develop a renovation and expansion plan for police facilities to support operational needs. And then lastly, we want to secure funding through grants, community partnerships, or government allocations to implement these facility improvements. Our fourth goal is to improve the efficiency of police services. We have 3 objectives. Objective 1 is enhance technology. Our second objective is to enhance equipment. And the third one is to optimize administrative tasks. Now looking at the strategy, so how we're going to hold ourselves accountable. First strategy for enhancing technology, we want to assess the current technology that we have and our equipment capabilities, identify any gaps and areas for improvement. The second one, we want to develop a procurement plan to acquire new technology over the next 5 years. Our third strategy is we want to establish a regular maintenance schedule for our existing equipment to ensure optimal performance. When we're looking at enhancing equipment, our first strategy is we want to assess our current equipment capabilities, identifying gaps and areas for improvement, develop a procurement plan to acquire the new equipment, and then establish a regular maintenance schedule for the existing equipment to make sure we have optimal performance. And then as we discuss our administrative tasks, we want to assess our current administrative workflow, identify any gaps and areas for improvement that we can make. And we want to develop a plan to identify and address service operational choke points and opportunities to streamline the efficiency and make things a little bit more easier for our officers. Oh, and lastly, establish a regular schedule to inspect and review administrative tasks and establish workflows.
Okay, goal number 5 was to strengthen our external partnerships. And for this one, we had 2 different objectives. Our first one being identify and engaging key external partners and foster collaborative initiatives. So our strategy underneath objective 1 for identifying and engaging key external partners was to conduct an assessment to identify those stakeholders, including community organizations, businesses, schools, and other government agencies. Strategy 2 was to develop a stakeholder engagement plan to outline these strategies for outreach and collaboration, and then to organize introductory meetings or forums with identified partners to establish initial relationships and discussing our mutual goals together. For fostering collaborative initiatives, creating a joint program with community organizations focused on public safety, crime prevention, and community wellness. Increasing partnerships with schools to implement educational programs on safety, conflict resolution, and the role of law enforcement. And establishing a regular schedule of community events, for example, town hall workshops that involve external partners and promote collaborative problem solving. For goal number 6, it was to enhance internal and external communication. And for this one, we had 3 different objectives: strengthening internal communication, strengthening external communication, and then foster collaboration with community partners. So our first strategy underneath the internal communication was to conduct a comprehensive assessment of our internal communication pathways, exploring digital and non-traditional solutions to increase the communications, and providing consistent ongoing communication throughout the department to keep employees informed and engaged. For strengthening external communication, creating a dedicated social media team to manage our online presence and respond promptly to inquiries from the community. Sharing success stories and positive outcomes from partnerships within the community through press releases and social media. Providing training for officers on effective communication techniques, including training program for the use of communication technology, diversity, and social media. And lastly, for that one, evaluate content on police department website and social media platforms annually, reevaluating the effectiveness of it. And then fostering collaboration with community partners, identify and engage with key community organizations to establish collaborative communication channels, and to develop joint communication campaigns with community partners to address public safety issues and promote community events.
All right. Thank you for hearing the goals. I think it's important to, when we consider all the goals, the things that poke out for me is staffing. Staffing has always been a consideration of an organization that's lean and that expects the most out of the people that work for us. And when you have those three things that we spoke about, including reputation and training and these high standards, you're really pushing folks to their limits. So I think in the fall would be a proper time to consider the impact of the progress we made over the last couple of years with the staffing. It's hard to come in here today and tell you exactly what our staffing level should be. I think we need to see the impact of what 2025 looks like. I think it's very important that we come out of the January meetings with the township board to see what the township goals are shaping and what they look like in the coming 4 years, and bring forth a plan in the fall. I think it's important when I looked at our folks explain about our building footprint. As this community grows, a gradual increase in staffing will cause what we are considering is expansion, a small expansion of the police department to accommodate some of these needs. You're looking at a building it's beautiful. We just did a remodel. We've accommodated the dispatch area to make it more modern to meet the service needs of our organization, but we're maxed out. There's nowhere else for male or female officers to go in the locker room. We need a lactation room. We have obvious areas of concern when it comes to gender issues and those types of things. We don't have a good answer for that right now. If we're going to try to maintain officers and their longevity and look like other police departments that we compete with for the highest, the best officers. If you're looking for the best officers, they look at facilities now. If we expect officers to be highly functional, we have to have a place for them to exercise. So those things that need to be considered, and we'll look for opportunities to address those issues. When it comes to technology, we have some issues. Ever-changing world of technology, as Victor can attest to in the back, we are going to be faced with considerable financial impacts of body-worn cameras, tasers, and these prep radios that have a life expectancy that's coming to an end. So these radio systems, we likely will be able to use 911 budget. Those things will be for us to present to you for consideration because, of course, this board sets a service level for this community. I think it's important to consider those items as we go into the strategic plan with the township. I know we have a special SAD, we have a very healthy fund balance, and these things can be addressed very easily. But we just have to be methodical and understand the difference between needs and wants, then mix in the expectations of the board and the citizens. So I really appreciate the attention to this and the work of all these folks. There's a lot of work that goes into this. And we are committed not only to progress, we're committed to We have to remember why we're here. We're the police. We're committed to the Constitution, and we're committed to some of the most important things that happen in our country, and it comes down to the Bill of Rights, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Second Amendment, the First Amendment. We have a dichotomy. We're one of the few services that has the charge where we could take someone's life, take their liberty, and at the same time protect their rights. And we're challenged by that, and we're inspired by that. It's a noble profession. So with that, turn it over.
Thank you, Chief. And with that, that concludes our presentation. I'll echo the Chief's sentiment. Thank you for your support. We cannot do it without you. And so that's what this, I hope this 5-year strategic plan shows, that we're taking that role seriously and trying to be as prudent as we possibly can as we look into the future of the things that we want for our community. So thank you, and I open up the floor for any questions or comments.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very good. I appreciate it, and I appreciate some of us being part of that. Do anyone want to start it? Actually, Summer and Kate, if you want to talk about grading this, your experience, or any questions or comments on it?
I'm not going to take credit for creating this,
No, just
but thank you to the Canton Police Department for putting together this thoughtful strategic plan and inviting Kate and I to give our feedback, not only as elected officials, but as residents of this community, on some of the, I think, opportunities moving forward, and some of the expectations that we have about service that we're hearing, from residents, that we can see ourselves. So thank you for allowing us to participate. A couple of brief comments. I don't really have any questions. And when I look at the goals that you've set forth, my mind automatically goes to, okay, what's the board's role in this? Like, how can we support the public safety department and the police department in being successful in your ultimate goals? And I think a couple of things, obviously, in the budget, managing the budget, but also being truly a partner on like recruiting, and a partner on thought partnership as you're thinking through what can we do to support staff with mental health and physical fitness? What can we do to make sure that we're able to meet the needs of our community in terms of the clinician and mental health support of the community, not just officers. How can we set a standard for what a response time for the police department should look like? How can we be supportive in making sure that you're able to prevent crime and to solve crimes? Because ultimately, that's what I think residents want to see from law enforcement, is, to make sure that this is a safe community. And so that's where my mind goes to when I look at all of the different goals, and I just, want to be a partner and make sure that you are able to be successful in the end.
Thank you. Thank you for that comment. I would like to touch on the recruitment. You'll never see, hopefully you'll never see it as a resident, as a police chief, and one day a former police chief. I never want this organization to have to do what this team did in the last couple of years, and the officers it's stood still and held the fort down while we recruited and rebounded this organization. It's exceptional. And the people that we're hiring right now, I just went to, the captains and I, and some of the folks here may have been there too. We just went to the latest graduations of the Wayne County Regional Police Academy and the Oakland County Police Academy. And I won't be humble for them. They stole the show when it came to awards. And we're very proud of that. And we do that because of the board support. Having a contract that you can recruit from, that's the bottom line. And having a culture that people want to work in. But I tell you one thing, we said it today at the directors meeting, Canton sells itself. As long as you're paying a good wage and you have a pension program, Canton sells itself. This is a beautiful place to work. I can attest to it. That's why I live here. So.
Everything that Summer said. And also, I was very thankful to be a part of the strategic planning. I think we had some really good conversations, some of which may have been difficult to hear, but I just appreciate that you were open to that. And I think when people look for a community to live in, the first thing they think of is it safe? And I think Canton's safe, and I think it's because we have a great police department. And I know I will do what I can to support you, and I think all of us will. So, yeah, tell us what you need and tell us what we should do to support you.
Tanya, do you have anything? Any questions or comments?
Yeah, first of all, this was a very, very well thought out, like the way you have described the goals and broken it down step by step, thinking internally and externally. Like, being a police officer is not an easy thing. We have to think of the physical and the mental health of our police, our public safety department. And you've thought about all those steps on what can be done. And we also have thought about what you can do externally, how to communicate. And I saw communication is a big part of your goal. So yeah, we are here to support you in any way, as we have done in the past, because, as both Kate and Summer have said, that, people come here to live in Canton because it's safe, it's, it's just welcoming and it's very safe. And the police department reflects that it is safe. We tend to keep safe. And also there is an aspect of being welcoming. The police department is like, helping out people when they're in need. So I was just wondering, like, what are the next steps from here? Like, would you put down these goals into action items after this? And, that's my question, and how we can support your action items for these.
Exactly. That's a good point. Accountability is how we started this conversation. Each one of these goals have an accountability mechanism and a metric over the years. One thing, as the different roles in the organization, one thing that we have to be mindful is not getting away from the strategic plan. And we've done that many times, and good and bad, and we've learned from that over the years. So assigning accountability, every part of every staff meeting that we have once a month, every lieutenant meeting is looking at what we're communicating, how does it tie into the overall strategic plan. So there's accountability. If you look through the book, you'll see where the assignment lies. And you'll see also what year we anticipate maybe that coming through. But we're very mindful of running an organization that's has a healthy fund balance. And it's important to have that because lean times do come. And we've been through those. And I don't want to go through that again either. So, Joe, I don't know if you can comment about accountability and how you designed this book.
Yeah, and that's what we had talked about with the goals, the strategy, and the objectives. As every step of the way, I openly recognize that the best plan A is a good plan B. And in 5 years, it could be a C or a D, depending on what we talked about, those external threats, depending on what they are. And we may have to downscale some things, we may have to move some things up on there, but the overarching goal, the 6 of them that we have, we should be able to march towards those things. Some of those items are budget heavy, but the truth of the matter is some of them are budget proof. When we talk about culture of an organization, when we talk about the people that you work with and retaining and hiring good people, that doesn't cost us anything for us to be good servants to the community and to have a good, healthy culture of our organization and backing each other up and supporting each other, which our department does a very good job on now. And so one of the things I had looked at when we had talked about strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats over this 5-year plan and truly throughout our careers, the strengths are your borderline. That means that we're doing them well right now. Over the next 5 years, we should maintain that strength or raise it up a little bit higher. That's what we're doing well. Those weaknesses, those are our areas of improvement. And so what we look for in the next 5 years is some of those weaknesses has now become strengths, and they're added to that pile, that bucket, if you will. And those are administrative things that we can do. And you're correct. I don't know. I'm not a financial wizard by any means, but I have lived long enough to know that budgets expand and contract. And so this plan that you have in front of you is agile enough, hopefully, to be able to survive all of those. Because the ultimate goal is that we will continue to move forward regardless of the obstacles that are in front of us. And we wanted to make sure this plan was able to survive that.
Yeah, I think the one thing, I got it written, and I talked to Joe about it today, I constantly think about it, is this organization, there shouldn't be a time when you call us where we're not yes before no. Then we, with a no, we'll find a way. If we can't get it done, we'll find a way. And that's the attitude that every one of these folks have to have. We're going to bring you a solution. And it may not be what you wanted, but that's the environment in which we've created. And it's not me. It started many, many years ago. We're based in service, so we're proud of that. So that's it.
Yeah, thank you. I know it was a lot of work. I appreciate it, and the goals are great. And I know you already are, recruitment is great. I like to see how you're going out to colleges and that, promoting recruitment and doing it through social media too. And then the other thing was health and wellness. Are you talking about for a facility other than the summit? I assume you're talking about an area where, the officers can go, because I know being healthy, physically healthy is important. It helps you both mentally and physically. Are you talking about having an area in the building where you can do it?
Exactly. It wouldn't be a huge area. It's going to come to us naturally when we address those locker rooms. I think the design, and if I was an architect, which I'm not, I would consider converting the locker rooms we have now into a small area for officers. It would model essentially like every one of your fire stations that has a workout facility. So we would have something like that internal for the police department, the ordnance department, our records bureau, and our dispatchers.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because I know that is very important for you all. And then mental health, which I know officers are not very good about opening up, but I hope there is a way that you can, open up to somebody, because that is so important, not just the physical, but the mental health aspect of it. But we are here, to help and support you in any way, because, Canton Police are very good, and I hear nothing but great things about our department, and so keep up the good work. And this was great, thanks.
Joe, did you have anything, any questions or comments? No, sorry.
Just looking at the word cloud, that slide really
Yeah,
stood out to me.
you do need that, sir, because it's going on cable.
Oh. Just looking at the word cloud slide, that really stood out to me. I don't think you could have three better words to describe a police department than professional, training, and reputation. So that's really great news. And the rest of the strategic plan looks terrific. Chad, you mentioned wages and benefits, and obviously that's something that's very important. But don't sell yourself short either. And all of you, don't sell yourself short in terms of the work that you do in the community and how that reputation for professionalism gets earned.
I, of course, echo what everyone says. Just a couple things for your presentation. So as we know, cybersecurity is an issue. I mean, you take reports every day, and there's bad actors, and they're getting worse. And of course, with the elements of artificial intelligence out there, replicating and be able to rewrite, that's something that we all have to change internally, correct? I mean, even when we change something, we think we're there, we're going to have to change it again because they're going to find a way into it. I know our Victor's team has really been working on that. What do we get, like how many millions of hits a day do we have with people trying to hack into our systems all the time? And I know I was given that number not too long ago.
At a point, we were taking hits about 8,000. At some point, it went up to a million for a year. So it varies based on the season. Just went through election season, which was the high season. Now, Santa season is another high season. So, yeah.
Yeah, so, so as you say, our technology has to keep improving and our processes have to keep improving because we're dealing with, unfortunately, bad actors out there. So that is a big one. Thanks for putting that in. Also, the cultural awareness is important too, as you said, that as more and more people move into this community from different cultures, we have to be aware of their customs and things like that. I know that the residents love our public safety, but as you know, when you go into a house, you have, understanding the culture you're walking into is important to you, your safety just as well as their safety, and actually being able to work with them a lot more and having them understand you. I know you've reached out to different organizations in the community to help with this at times. I know I've gotten calls sometimes to ask for contact years ago to help with some certain situations, and that's great. You also talked about technology, and that's important. We have, 12 drone pilots now? Is that in public safety, or is that just in the police, or?
Lieutenant Shulman's been waiting.
Yes, I know. I know. I said, I've got to ask him that.
wait
Did you see that word cloud? It
longer.
said drones. It said drones.
We just sent him to New York. He solved the problem.
Yeah,
So.
you solved the problem.
It just got back from New Jersey, correct? Yes.
Yes.
If you could speak
No.
on that.
Yes, we currently have a drone team. It's just police officers at this point, and we have 12 pilots, 3 drones, looking to obviously expand our fleet at times, and have been in conversations actually with Airspace Link.
Good.
With the programs that they have coming, there's different things, drone as first responders. I know they were testing, and so hopefully I can get back with them and see what we can do with Canton Township as maybe a test site at some point, because that is the future. I have nothing to do with anything on the East Coast, don't know anything about it.
Wasn't me.
But, and then we'd like to eventually, it'd be nice to integrate with our fire department,
Yes.
because there's uses for them to keep them safer when they're on scenes for fires and different things that they have to handle. So there's a big, broad future for drones.
There is. I spoke, just to let everybody know, as part of the Conference of Western Wayne, we had applied for drone, we had our assessment in Canton, as you know, because you were all part of that, but we did not get the grant. So CWW teams did not get the grant. So we're looking at other ways we can do this. And of course, what happened in New Jersey recently, is a flag to say, hey, I spoke to Anna from Airspace Link Friday, and she said that when that started appearing, Airspace Link started getting calls like crazy saying, come help us. Because the big thing while they're working with the city of New York on their drone passageways and all of their policies and things like that, New Jersey didn't have that. And so they said, come help us. Because while all those drones, and of course some of it was aircraft and helicopters, which people thought were drones, but people, they were unable to tell who was in that airspace because they did not have this technology. So this technology is very important, and we really should look at how we can fund that, because we need to make, of course, public safety use this extensively, which the larger cities are seeing, and I think the greater region is. So I think we'll have to take a second look at that, but I'm looking forward to that. And I'm wondering, so we have drone pilots. Would you accept also our residents to be part of that, or is it just the police force or residents to help with that, or?
I think he's looking for me for an answer.
Yeah.
I suggest no at this point. There's things that we do. We're not going to allow a civilian that's not a sworn member of our organization to deploy in that regard. As it relates to maybe some other opportunities we haven't realized, I'm open for that discussion. But right now, the way our organization operates, I think it's best to keep it sworn.
Okay.
Until maybe there's something we haven't realized to appear. So
I think we do need to move our drone program, though, to a higher level, based on especially what we're seeing in the country. And the bad actors we're talking about with cybersecurity, this is all tied together. So I know you're really happy about this, and I am too. I've been pushing this, and so is Deputy. And
I think
another
I've got
thing,
3 emails for drones. So.
What's that? I dream of drones. Mental health was also mentioned, and what's important there is, as you said, it's not just the mental health of internal, but external. We have a police clinician, we've added that. But also the CWW, Judge Breedy O'Leary was there, and she said something interesting where she brought up, she says, this is not just for a judge to send someone to mental health court, and that covers our communities. But she says the police officers are also able to, if you're stopping somebody or working with somebody, you should be able to say, hey, based on what I've seen, you might consider this person for mental health court. So I don't know if we're aware of that or we're working actively with that. I know we had met with her.
I know we had a little bit of conversation about that. The mechanism usually for us as we deal with the courts is to use the prosecutor for a charging, but there is an early stage of arraignment where we deal directly with the court. And at the stage of bail or bond, we can make that recommendation. I don't know of a direct nexus for us to bypass the prosecuting process
Right.
and go right into the district court level and put someone into that system. I do have a sideline, something parallel to that, which would include Judge O'Leary's grant. So if the grant is bigger than I have knowledge of, and I think Joe did a research project, but that was years ago, on trying to get Canton through the 35th District Court to be more active with Judge O'Leary's court. I don't know if you recall anything from your project, but I don't know how to get someone into the court system besides using the prosecutor's office.
You're absolutely correct, Chief. I think it's recognizing it very early on. What do we have in front of us? And I talk a lot about looking at the behavior of the person and training our officers to understand that whatever that person is going through at that moment right now may be related to something bigger. And that's truly the key to that. And then once they understand that, that becomes the foundation for us to be able to provide services, whether it be through the court, or whether it be through internally with our department. Unfortunately, typically some type of an offense has occurred, and especially if there's a victim related to that offense, we do have to respect the right of that victim to be able to choose to press charges or not. But that's where the educational component comes in, where you can meet with the victim and explain some of the things that are going on and let them make an educated decision on whether they want to or not. Obviously, the incident happened, and that may be the only thing that they know. So we would look for the partnerships with the court to be able to facilitate. We have a lot of court advocates that can help us. We do that with domestic violence quite often. So when we try and talk about building that bridge of understanding, we look for those partnerships. And you'll see that in our plan when we talk about building external partnerships. The schools is obviously paramount in our community, but it's also our external partnership with the court. How do we get some of those advocates? Who do we partner up with to be able to at least get that communication? And I talked earlier about external and internal communication. Sometimes the most that we can do is create space for somebody to be able to communicate. And whether they choose to or not, that's their right. But our job sometimes is just to create that. And so that would be a project that we would look at moving forward with. Judge O'Leary and Wayne, they do a great job over there. They really, really do.
So maybe there's something there that we don't know about.
Yeah, I could probably text her and see what she was talking about, because I'd like to open that conversation if there's a way to utilize that grant that's it's not being used right now. There might be a direct connection between our organization, Kristen, and the judges' court. So.
Right, and as you said earlier, we did meet on the juvenile justice reforms that are coming down and seeing how we can work with our juveniles within our district too, also. Another thing I wanted to ask was SROs. So this is like a high-level view. I know it's a strategic plan. So how are we covering the SROs? I mean, I know we have an MOU with the schools, but how are they covered in this plan?
How are they covered in this plan? I think I can't specify exactly in what goal and area they would be besides just the engagement and the conversations around engagement. We have 3 SROs at the school. You've seen and we've seen a change in how we operate, where the programming is more based on school consequences and diversionary programming more than putting a child into the system. But as it relates to the goals, I'll defer to the captain here. You might be able to speak to it a little bit.
The common theme is going to be internal and external. So when you look at Goal 4, improve the efficiency of police services, one of the things that we look at is, are we giving our officers the best chance to succeed? So when we look at Goal 4, Objective 1, enhance technology, is there something out there? Technology. I'm not a Twitter or whoever it is person. I don't know a lot about that. But the SROs, a new generation, that's how they communicate. And so we talk about the educational component. Our school resource officers can reach them on their level and be able to, again, build that bridge and that understanding. So that would be goal one. We talk about enhanced equipment, giving our school resource officers the tools that they need to be able to help that community the most they can, because PSEP is truly a community on its own. It's a very, very large group. Optimizing administrative tasks, taking a look at, do we have the laptops that they need and the equipment to be able to get them out of that office and get them out with the people? Because we don't need a school, they have to write reports just like everybody else does, and those are time consuming. So when I talk about technology, it really is becoming more fluid. How do we become quicker in what we do? How do we communicate better? How do we become more mobile as a police department? But as we talked about earlier with Victor, there's some strong security concerns that come along with that. However, it is something that I look for our school resource officers to be able to do, become more mobile. That way the more time that they have to walk around in the school and be seen, the better the relationship becomes, because everybody gets to know them. The next one's going to be goal 5, strengthening external partnerships. When we look at objective 2, foster collaborative initiatives. Strategy 2.2, increase partnership with schools to implement educational programs on safety, conflict resolution. And what is the role of law enforcement? There's a meme that I show my mom, and it's what my mom thinks I do, and it's like a Superman costume thing, and that's what I think I do, and it's what the public thinks I do.
Oh, you let us secret.
Oh, yeah. We wear so many hats, and so some of that is communicating with them of what is the role in law enforcement. I will tell you, one of the things that came out of all of the recruiting and all of the hiring that we do, one of the things that I appreciate is that people from different walks of life and bring different things to the table come together to make our police department the best that it can be. We have some people that are built for jumping fences and all that stuff, and there might have been a day years ago where I probably fit that bill. Let's be honest with each other, I'm probably not jumping over a fence chasing after somebody nowadays, but I have other skills that I bring to the table, at least I believe I do.
I say the same thing.
Right. So as we change in our careers, that's one of the things that we look at. We're creating environments, we're talking about culture and organization. How do we support that officer, the school resource officer, whoever it is, from day one rookie all the way to the back end of their career? How do we change as an organization and be fluid? And so partnerships with the schools, when we talk about meeting with the kids, getting them to understand that police officers are just here for more. We do wear many hats in the community. And I'll tell you, some of our officers do some pretty neat things outside of the boundaries of our police department. And when you begin to, we talk about empathy, right? We talk about wearing somebody else's shoes and understanding. That's how you start to build some of those components, and somebody actually gets to know you. And then they say, oh, shoot, that for me, that's a person's like my dad, or if it's a younger officer, they begin to relate on different levels, and you really start breaking down some of those walls, and now we're really moving forward. So that would be our plan with the school resource officers. It's how it fits into our strategic plan.
Okay, thank you. I'm really sad this board can't be part of your drone team, so they told me to ask. Did you guys have anything else? Any other questions? Kate?
Yeah, just going back to the SROs, we had a good conversation about them during the external stakeholders meeting, and I think I see it on the SWOT analysis from that meeting, that the idea is that they're more there for safety and educational purposes and not for discipline purposes. It's that, if a school policy is broken, that should be a school discipline issue.
Yeah, that's exactly the intention of the MOU. I know it took us a couple years to come to the conclusion of the MOU, but really defining what the law enforcement should be doing in the school district, specifically the PSEP campus. So that was a challenge to identify the right words and working back and forth with the school board. But I think that product will live for a while because it identifies what I think this board exactly wants and what works for the school board. And you're trying to combine that with the laws of the state of Michigan. So it really came together.
Yeah, and I also think that you know, it's not just Canton Township that is stressed for staffing, but the schools are also. And when there's another body there, they will try to use it how they want. And, you know, and it's not meant to be, I'm not saying it was something bad they did. I think they just fall into that idea that, oh, here's someone that I could use. Maybe they could be out in the hall, like patrolling kids and seeing what the kids are doing, but also making sure the kids are following policies, which is not their role. And I wanted to say one more thing about the strategic plan. I'm really excited about it. I think it's a great document. You know, you know, Chad and Adam, that we had a meeting a long time ago. Summer, Anne Marie, and I, long before I was on this board. And one of the things I said was that, you know, quite often people will have an experience with the police that is in a circumstance that is not a positive one for them. Whether it be, you know, they were attacked or they were robbed or, you know, so what I was saying was that at that meeting, I said, the police are supposed to help. And I think that this, you know, the expectation of the police department, the expectations that we have, but also that you all have, is that you will be helpers. And it makes me also think of Mr. Rogers, because I love Mr. Rogers. I wish he was still here. But he always said, look for the helpers. And that, you know, if I had my choice, not that it's a choice because it's happening, I would just be proud to have a police department that is full of helpers.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? If anyone doesn't know, also, this is Emma, our resident advocate, and I know, Emma, you interface with the residents a lot. Is there anything that you wanted to add, or? Rohit, you were also part of this. Do you want to add or say?
I wanted to share, I was,
I can't, you come up
Take
here?
Mike, Rohit.
Hi, my name is Rohit Singhal. I'm a resident, CCIC member, also member of the PTAG. So I want to share an interview that I saw online of one of the biggest telecom sectors in India, the CEO, and he mentioned that he recently got a call from somebody, his CFO, and asking for a higher value wire transfer. He later found out it was AI generated. So the people had not only cloned his number, they had cloned that person's voice trying to get a large amount of money. Just when you're talking about technology and AI, this is the downside of that, but it's there, it's already there. People are using it to misuse it. That's all. Thank you.
Rohit brings up a good point. I have 3 teenage daughters, and I require a thumbprint now in order to give them lunch money and things, so.
You make them give you their thumbprint?
Yeah, I make them, I'm just kidding. You bring up a good point, and that's something that, again, we try and focus on, is that technology aspect of, that's more of our investigative side of the Canton Police Department, is trying to, people have all day long to think of different ways to dupe the system. And so we try and match that to the best we can.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Let me see if there's any public comments online. Nope, I don't see anyone. All right, great. Well, thank you very much. This was very good and very thought out and very thoughtful, and I'm glad you did what you did, and I think it's a great piece of work as usual. So with that, if you have any questions of us,
I would just, you know, for closing, I think it's important, as always, you can always contact me or staff, and we will, like I said, yes before no. Let's find out exactly what the expectations are, and we'll hammer out a good idea and response. And again, I think in closing, I can't thank this board enough. You've done a lot that you don't even know about, and this organization is headed in a beautiful direction. And thank you to everyone here to help put this together, and especially Captain Biley for his work in leading this charge. So, well done.
Yeah, thank you for the effort. Thank you very much. Echo what everyone said today. Okay, with that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Support.
Motion made by Treasurer Slavin, supported by Trustees Foster and Ganguly. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Meeting ended. Thank you very much.